Hello everyone, and welcome back to Hidden Korea. Today, we're diving into a moment that has shaken the entire continent and left millions speechless. Hyun was completely stunned on live television after son Ye-jin dropped an unexpected confession. A revelation so shocking it sent shockwaves across all of Asia. What exactly did she reveal? Why did it happen on live TV? And how did this truth leave Hyun visibly shaken in front of millions of viewers? Stay with us, because we're uncovering every dramatic detail right now. The moment the camera blinked red, signaling the live broadcast had officially begun. No one, absolutely no one, expected the next 10 minutes to become one of the most shocking moments in Korean entertainment history. The studio lights glowed with their usual warmth. The hosts smiled with their usual charm. Hyun sat composed as always, the epitome of elegance and quiet confidence. It was supposed to be a celebratory special and cheerful anniversary broadcast featuring Korea's golden couple, Hyun and son Ye-jin. But beneath the surface, beneath the beautiful lights and scripted laughter, a storm was brewing. Son Ye-jin sat next to him, her hands clasped tightly together on her lap. She offered polite smiles, but there was a tension in the curve of her jaw, a faint tremble in her breath. Something the viewers wouldn't notice right away, but Hyun sensed it the moment they walked into the studio. He had leaned toward her moments earlier, whispering softly, "Are you okay?" She only nodded, but something in her eyes, an emotion he couldn't name, made his heart tighten. Still, he didn't push further. He had no idea he was standing on the edge of an emotional cliff that would crumble beneath him in front of millions. The hosts chatted excitedly about their recent projects, their married life, their undeniable chemistry, and the worldwide love they'd received. Hyun smiled and laughed at all the right moments. Son Ye-jin responded politely, but her eyes kept drifting away, as if trying to find strength in something unseen. Then it happened. One of the hosts, trying to lighten the mood, asked a playful question. "Ye-jin SSI, fans have been curious, is there anything you want to reveal today? Maybe a secret you've kept from Hyun SSI?" A harmless, teasing question. A joke. A moment for laughter. But instead, Son Ye-jin froze. Her breath hitched. Her smile faded. And her eyes, filled with something deep and painfully vulnerable, lifted toward the audience. Hyun turned to her, confusion knotting his brows. "Ye-jin," he whispered softly. But she didn't look at him. The studio fell unsettlingly silent as she inhaled shakily. The hosts exchanged worried glances. Even the camera operators paused, sensing the air shift into something heavy, electric, dangerous. Then, with a voice trembling not from fear but from overwhelming emotion, she said, "Yes, there's something I've been hiding." Atmosphere fractured instantly. A shockwave rolled across the studio. Even through the television screens, the audience could feel the tension clawing its way into every corner. Hyun's heart dropped. He had never seen her like this. Not once. Son Ye-jin's hands tightened until her knuckles turned pale. Her voice was uneven, filled with a pain she couldn't hide anymore. "I'm sorry, but I can't carry this secret alone anymore." He leaned forward, eyes wide, every muscle in his body stiffening. "Ye-jin, what are you talking about? What secret?" Her lips quivered. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with tears pooling at the edges. But before she could speak, the studio lights flickered, just for a second. A brief glitch. A trembling moment of uncertainty. She didn't wait. She didn't hesitate. "I have something I never told you. Something I should have said before we married." Hyun's face drained of color. The hosts were frozen. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every trembling breath. "What is it?" Hyun whispered, fear cracking his voice. And then, in one single sentence, Son Ye-jin shattered the image, the fantasy, the fairy tale that Asia had held so dearly. The audience gasped. The hosts went pale. Hyun's hand dropped helplessly to his lap. His breath vanished. And before he could speak, the studio monitors behind them, screens that were supposed to show fan messages and hearts, began glitching. Static. Distortion. Flickers of black and white. A ripple of something terrifying and unexpected. The producers panicked behind the scenes. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But Son Ye-jin continued, as if nothing could stop her now. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning. The truth about." The lights cut. Darkness swallowed the studio. The feed froze for millions of viewers. Screams echoed. Cameras clattered. Someone shouted for backup power. Hyun Bin reached blindly for Ye-jin. Ye-jin. Where are you? But the darkness was thick, cold, suffocating. Then, a low sound echoed through the studio. A heavy bang. Followed by another. And another. The sound of someone stumbling. A soft cry. A whisper. A voice, broken, trembling, Hyun Bin's voice. Please. Ye-jin, tell me you're okay. And then, the lights snapped back on. Hyun Bin was on his knees. Tears streaming down his face. Hands shaking uncontrollably. The nation watched in horror. Because Sun Ye-jin, woman sitting beside him seconds earlier, was gone. The studio erupted into chaos as soon as the lights came back on. Staff members ran in every direction. Producers shouted into headsets. Hosts stood frozen, staring at the empty chair where Sun Ye-jin had been sitting. Bin's trembling hands searched blindly around the floor. His breath coming in short, panicked bursts. Ye-jin, he shouted again, voice cracking. The audience watched helplessly from behind screens. Comments flooding in by the thousands. Where did she go? Was it staged? What happened? Why is Hyun Bin crying? But nothing about this moment was staged. Nothing about his breakdown was fake. Hyun Bin rose to his feet, barely, and stumbled toward the backstage area. His heartbeat thundering in his chest. Hands were shaking so violently he had to grab the wall for support. Tears blurred his vision as he shouted her name again and again. Behind the curtains, the staff looked pale, terrified. And no one saw her leave. A producer stammered. She didn't walk off stage. She didn't pass any exit. She just disappeared when the lights went out. Hyun Bin grabbed the man by the shoulders. Do you mean she disappeared? She was right next to me. She was. His voice broke mid-sentence. Another staff member came running from the hallway. Breathless and shaking. She's not in the dressing rooms. Not in the waiting area either. All the doors were locked during the blackout. Hyun Bin staggered back, hand covering his mouth as the reality hit him like a blow to the chest. Sun Ye-jin had vanished during a live broadcast. In the span of seconds. Gone without a trace. And worst of all, gone right as she was about to reveal a secret that could have changed everything. He collapsed onto a nearby chair, burying his face in his hands as another wave of sobs tore through him. He didn't care about the cameras, or the staff, or the millions watching. All he knew was that she had been right beside him, and now she was gone. The studio was sealed off within minutes. Police arrived. Investigators flooded in. Everyone was questioned. But Hyun Bin could barely breathe, let alone speak. Detective approached him gently. Mr. Hyun, can you remember anything she said before the blackout? He swallowed hard. She said she had been hiding something. She should have told me before we married. And what do you think that secret was? He lifted his head slowly, eyes red, devastated. Filled with a fear deeper than anything he had ever felt. Don't know, he whispered. But whatever it was, she disappeared before she could tell me. Detective exchanged a look with his partner. Mr. Hyun, are you aware? Asked carefully. That Sun Ye-jin filed a private request with the station earlier today. Hyun Bin's breath caught. A request? What request? The detective hesitated. She asked for backup security for this broadcast. Hyun Bin's heart stopped. What? Why? The detective took a step closer. She believed someone might try to silence her before she could speak. Everything inside Hyun Bin went cold. Someone, he whispered. Who? But the detective didn't answer. Because at that exact moment, low hum filled the studio. The giant screen behind the stage flickered. Rippled across it. Followed by a distorted image. A shadow. Tall. Unrecognizable. Standing behind Sun Ye-jin. Hyun Bin's blood turned to ice. The shadow leaned close to her. And whispered something into her ear. The screen glitched. To black. Hyun Bin collapsed, screaming her name. Tears pouring down his face. Because now, one thing was clear. Sun Ye-jin didn't disappear. She was taken. And the secret she tried to reveal was the reason. The studio became a crime scene within minutes. Formed by officers, forensic teams, technicians, terrified staff whispering theories no one dared say aloud. But Hyun Bin heard none of it, not the murmurs, Not the clicking cameras. Not the commands echoing from the detectives. The world had shrunk into a single, suffocating reality. Sun Ye-jin was gone. Taken. Vanished right in front of him. And he hadn't been able to stop it. He staggered back toward the stage. Unable to keep still. He retraced his steps, touching the chair she had sat in. The microphone she held. The edge of the table where her fingers trembled moments before she spoke. Every detail of that moment replayed in his mind, her shaky breath, her trembling eyes, the weight in her voice. Something I never told you. Those words pierced him again and again. A detective approached cautiously. Hyun, you need to rest. We'll find her. Hyun Bin whipped around, tears burning in his eyes. No. I'm not resting. Going home. I'm not leaving this place until you find her. The detective exhaled slowly. We're doing everything we can. But I need you to stay calm and answer a few questions. Hyun Bin ran a hand through his hair, still shaking. Fine. Ask. Did Sun Ye-jin ever mention receiving threats? Messages? Anything unusual? Hyun Bin hesitated, not because he didn't know the answer, but because he now realized something horrifying. I'd been acting strangely for weeks. Late-night phone calls she refused to explain. Moments where she flinched at shadows. Sudden requests for private meetings with producers. Nights she stayed awake, staring at her phone with a clenched jaw. And he dismissed it. He thought it was stress, exhaustion, pressure. He thought she'd talk when she was ready. Now, guilt clawed at his throat. She didn't tell me anything specific, he admitted, voice breaking. But she was scared. I knew it. I felt it. I didn't ask enough. The detective nodded grimly. There's more. He pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside was a folded piece of paper, scribbled in hurried handwriting. It was found in her dressing room. Hyun Bin's heart pounded violently as he reached for it. His vision blurred with tears as he read the message. I disappear tonight. It wasn't an accident. I'm sorry, Bin. YJ. Hyun Bin's knees almost buckled. Why didn't she show me this? He whispered. Because she didn't want to put you in danger. The detective replied quietly. Filed a private protection request this morning. Bin pressed the note to his forehead, tears dripping onto the plastic. She should have told me. She should have trusted me. She crumbled. Suddenly, a technician from the control room burst into the studio. Face drained of color. You need to see this, he stammered. Footage from the blackout. The detectives, Hyun Bin, and several staff members rushed to the control room. The technician pulled up a file, a slow security recording taken during the power outage. The room held its breath. The video showed the studio plunged in darkness. Silhouettes moved in chaos. Sound was distorted, barely audible. A faint beam of light appeared behind the stage curtain. Not a flashlight. A phone screen. And next to it, a figure. Mask. Gloves. Dark clothing. Silent, calculated movements. Hyun Bin's breath hitched. No, who is that? The masked figure reached for Sun Ye-jin. She resisted, he could see it clearly. A struggle. A muffled cry. Then, the figure wrapped an arm around her waist and pulled her into the darkness. In one smooth, terrifying motion, Hyun Bin slammed a fist into the table, shouting in agony. Why didn't anyone see this? Didn't have access to the backup angles until now. Technician whispered. The room fell silent again, but the worst was yet to come. The masked figure paused for a moment before leaving. Turned his head slightly toward the camera, and though his face was hidden, tension was unmistakable. He wanted to be seen. A warning. Taunt. A message. Then, slowly, he held up something between two fingers. Something small. Reflective, unmistakable. Ring. Sun Ye-jin's ring. Hyun Bin's heart stopped. The detective froze the frame. Mr. Hyun, he said quietly. Do you recognize this gesture? Hyun Bin stared at the screen, trembling. Because the masked figure wasn't just showing the ring. Making a sign. A sign Hyun Bin had seen before. Years ago. In a scandal buried deep under NDAs, fear, and silence. His blood ran cold. I know who took her. Hyun Bin whispered. The room leaned in. Hyun Bin's voice dropped. Broken and filled with terror. Someone from her past. And mine. Hyun Bin stood motionless in front of the frozen security footage. The image of the masked figure holding Son Ye-jin's ring seared into his mind like a brand he could never erase. His breath shook. His hands trembled. For a moment, the world narrowed to nothing but that one haunting frame, the stolen ring gleaming under the faint emergency light. The silent taunt from a shadow that had stepped straight out of their hidden past. Around him, the room faded into a distant blur, detectives murmuring. Staff crying quietly. Replaying the footage frame by frame. But Hyun Bin heard none of it. His entire soul was sinking, collapsing into a terrifying coldness he had never known. Son Ye-jin wasn't gone. Hadn't run. She hadn't disappeared. She had been taken. And the person responsible wasn't a stranger or a crazed fan. It was someone he recognized. Someone who should have never returned. Someone he thought had vanished from the industry, and from their lives, long ago. A ghost from their past. Real, now breathing, now hunting. A detective touched his shoulder gently. Mr. Hyun, we'll find her. But Hyun Bin pulled away, his voice raw. Trembling with fury and heartbreak. No, he whispered. I'll find her. He wiped his tears with a shaking hand and stared at the dark screen, jaw clenched. Eyes burning through the reflection of his own devastated face. I don't care who I have to confront. I don't care what truth comes out. I'm not losing her. And in that moment, not as an actor, not as a celebrity, but as a man whose world was tearing apart, Bin stepped into the center of the studio. The fallen lights flickering around him like dying stars. Outside, rain began to strike the glass walls. Thunder cracked through the sky. Korea watched in breathless silence as the broadcast abruptly ended, leaving millions in shock. One truth was clear. The confession Son Ye-jin couldn't finish. The secret she tried to reveal was dangerous enough to rip her away in seconds. Whatever she had been hiding, whatever she feared, now staring directly at Hyun Bin from the shadows. It had begun. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. Thank you so much for watching and staying with us through this intense and heart-stopping story. Your support, your reactions, engagement mean everything to us and help keep Hidden Korea alive with stories that dig deeper than the headlines. Enjoyed today's deep dive? Don't forget to like the video, thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Hidden Korea, so you never miss the next twist, the next mystery, or the next shocking truth we uncover. This is Hidden Korea, where the stories you think you know always have a darker side. See you in the next episode.